They literally, Carnival, they have made it seem like it's like a predominantly black cruise where it's kind of like being in the villages.
Like, are you talking about like the elderly people?
Yeah, it's just a bunch of people surrounded with STDs and shit. That's what the villages are.
I mean,
know about
yeah,
that?
they have like little pineapples.
You should know about the villages, brother.
Do you know about the villages?
I'm familiar with
You sell a lot of houses in the villages?
You know, not me personally. There are a lot of agents that do really specialize in this.
Well, the villages, I've
George
heard,
is like, it's not my forte.
It's on my wheelhouse, but I know.
I have a little thing in my throat, but
It's okay.
Yeah.
Don't be sad. We'll do another one next
you
week.
need to fucking go to quarantine.
well, hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Only Lawsuits podcast. Today we have Realtor George Reeter. What's
Thank you
going
very
on, my
much.
man?
Not much. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to come hang out with you guys.
Yeah, man, we appreciate your time. Let everybody know a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been in the real estate business since 2021. Worked with an outstanding real estate team for a few years. And this year, I actually took that leap and I started my own kind of real estate team. Right now, it's just kind of a one-man band, but I'm hoping to grow the team, in the near future. And I'm just having fun, doing what I love. So I feel blessed.
2021 was a great, interesting time in real estate, obviously, with COVID.
It was. It was such an interesting time to start in real estate because, I mean, you had homes just flying off the market and prices were shooting up like so high and so fast. And it was definitely a very exciting time. But now that things have started to slow down a little bit, it can feel like, oh my gosh, the sky's falling. But that's not the case. It's just that I started at an insane time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So.
and so that's kind of really interesting that you brought that in. You brought that up because I recently just purchased another house in Oviedo, and Oviedo it's been developing lately, but it's really in the past few years seen a really big growth. And one thing that I have seen, like I pay attention to real estate as I do real estate litigation. But the one thing that I did is when I was looking for this new house, we bought a house in 21, we bought a townhouse. And to go back to what you were saying, we went and saw the townhouse the first time, and within 3 weeks, the price jumped almost $15,000 to $20,000.
Really?
Yeah, it was a new construction townhouse. So the market was going crazy. So we locked in. And as of today, the townhouse is worth even more. Like it's ridiculous how much equity we built. So we're really happy about that. But when it came to buying our second house, now, we kind of saw the opposite where we really had the bargaining power. And you can touch base more on this is because when I went in to purchase my new house, I obviously, I did it myself because I do real estate stuff. So I didn't have to hire an agent or a broker or anyone to help me, which I always recommend people use those because as an attorney, I know what to do more or less to how to deal with it. But real estate's really tricky. So it's always good to get someone's experience like yourself to help. But one thing that I realized this time around is it was a buyer's market because I literally went in and I offered $20,000 less. And I told them, if you don't accept it within 24 hours, I'm just going to go find another one, So, and that's kind of the feel of the market from what I've been seeing right now. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on how buyers are approaching the real estate market? Is it something where you see people have that ability to leverage sellers?
Well, I would say I think overall, yes, the market is trending in kind of a traditional buyer's market direction. I mean, technically, it's kind of a balanced market now. We have about 6 months of supply, which is good. That's what we like to see. But I would say it's very property specific because savvy agents know that if you price a property well, it's gonna sell. And I am still, believe it or not, guys, I'm still running into multiple offers. And
That's
I'm still
awesome.
Yeah, and I'm still running into very competitive situations. Now, on the other hand, I have been able to get tens of thousands of dollars knocked off the price, on other properties. So it really depends on how savvy is the seller and how aggressive is their pricing strategy, and also how well is the home being marketed. So it's different.
One really important thing you mentioned is it's really important for you as the agent for the seller to keep the seller in reality, right?
Definitely.
Because, I mean, I don't want to call out any specific parts of Orlando, but there are bad parts of Orlando that, you know, if I see anything above $300,000, if I see anything above $200,000, I'm going to laugh, you know? But there's parts of Orlando where people are literally paying millions of dollars for absolutely shit. And it's ridiculous in my opinion, you know, but more or less, I look at things totally different because, you know, I have a certain expectation. So, and Farah's husband was in the real estate market stuff, and you know,
he's still in real estate, but he does more so commercial.
And it's competitive.
Yeah.
You know, so let's talk about that. How do you feel the market is with competition of the people getting into your kind of profession?
That's an excellent question. So, I mean, they say on average, everybody knows like 12 real estate agents.
Yeah.
And it is a very competitive field. I mean, there are a ton of people getting into it, but the real estate business failure rate in the first year is very high. I mean, what is it, like 90% or something?
Yeah.
It's insanely high. And the reason for that is because it's insanely hard too. And so I think for me, I don't really focus on it. I try to kind of tune out the noise and I just focus on me and how can I improve my business? Because I know that it's going to be a saturated market. If anything, that just puts more pressure on me to truly differentiate what I'm doing and make sure that I make it, you know, much better than the competition. You know, that's my focus. So gotcha. I know that there's a lot of competition out there, but for me, I just kind of try to tune it out and I just kind of focus on me. I feel like that's all we can do.
I think we as a law firm and as lawyers, Farah and I both talk about that sort of stuff all the time is, you know, the things that we really hammer down on is trying to distinguish our law firm and who we are as attorneys versus the very saturated, you know, attorney market. Look, there are hundreds of lawyers. There are thousands of lawyers throughout the state. In our zip code, we're in, you know, one of the most condensed zip code with lawyers, you know, right now. But, you know, we separate ourselves from the crowd. And I think that's really important that you do that because that's the only way you survive in business, right?
Yeah. And essentially, I feel like no matter what, like your success is contingent on the amount of work you put in because whether you're doing real estate, whether you're doing law, like, yeah, they're going to be saturated markets, but how much work are you willing to put in for those clients? And I think that's what sets us or anyone else apart in that market.
And Josh is a great example of that because when me and Josh started the media company, I mean, Josh, like, you tell him, dude, tell him how much work we've put in to distinguish ourselves from other marketing companies.
Yeah, because just like any service-related business, you're just trying to separate yourself from someone else. There are going to be, you know, whether it's law, real estate, media, there are going to be a wide array of different people in those specific fields. And Mike and I, you know, from the very get-go, we put in an enormous amount of footwork, legwork, into making sure that we made our product very distinctive. And we could separate ourselves from the competition to make sure that we were providing great value. Because ultimately, that's what people want. They want value, and they want someone that they can trust.
In my concept behind business in general is if you make the business make sense, it'll make dollars eventually. You know, and we've been very fortunate. Look, I mean, we're probably one of the very few marketing companies that offer as many services as we do to our clients. And I'll tell you, we do a lot for nothing sometimes, but the relationships we build with people like you, anyone that we work with, we have on as a guest, it speaks volumes as to what we can do as a company. And ultimately, you know, investing that time into your field as a real estate, in the law firm, in marketing, that is what separates you as an entrepreneur, as a business person, and makes you be successful in the long run.
Well, you know, that brings up a question for George. So for a lot of the work that I've done for Keller Williams specifically, I'm glad you brought up the turnover rate being like 90%, because every time I've gone to the office, there's a fresh new batch of agents that are looking to kind of make an impact themselves. So now that you've been in the game as a manager of agents, and now that you're an agent yourself, what's some advice that you can give to realtors that are trying to make their mark?
You know, I would say the number one thing, and it's gonna sound redundant. Everybody's probably heard it before, but it's consistency. I mean, I really do feel with anything in life, you know, consistency is key, especially in the real estate business, because you're taking something that inherently is extremely volatile. You hear a lot about agents, you know, talking about the whole feast and famine thing. But for me, what I've found and what people that came before me have found, who are much more experienced than me, have known that, you know, if you stay consistent with your activities, you're going to have consistent results. You're going to have consistent business. And so I think it's just pushing through even when it gets hard, even when you're not seeing those returns, realizing what's important, the relationships, and earning the business and earning the trust, and just staying consistent with those activities and trusting it'll pay off eventually.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, that sounds great. One thing I wanted to ask you about is obviously in the news, there's been a recent surge in the past few months of, you know, Ron DeSantis pushing for the concept of getting rid of property taxes, right? And obviously you being a agent in the real estate, you know, market or field, people talk to you about property taxes. Sure. When it comes to property taxes in Florida specifically, what do you see in relation to a property tax versus the buyer's ability to afford that home?
Well, I mean, there's no secret that it does play a role. I mean, if you're buying in an area that, you know, just has much lower taxes, like for example, Davenport market is a market that has very low taxes. And so, I mean, just as a result of that, yes, your monthly payment is going to be a little bit lower. Now, if you buy in a higher tax area, the payment's going to go up. That is if you choose to escrow your taxes with your mortgage payment and everything. You can pay it separately and pay it in a lump sum if you want.
Yeah.
But it does make a difference. And actually, I have had quite a few of my clients that rightly so have wanted to talk about the taxes, you know, before considering a property, because it all makes, you know, it all plays a part in your financial picture and what you're spending on the house.
Yeah. And taxes, property taxes are important, which is why, like, you know, being who I am, I naturally hate the concept of taxes, but I understand taxes are important. They go to schools, they go to roads, they go to, you know, very important things for the community. Now, how the fuck we're going to pay for that shit, I don't know. But if I can get away from paying the government rent for my property, I'd love it. And one of the things that, you know, as I think this concept through is that I'm hoping if this does really gain traction and we can make it feasible, I personally think it's going to help drive the property values up, because if people don't have to pay those higher mortgage payments, you know, coupled with their escrowed taxes, that means they have more house to buy, right? So what used to cost, you know, $1 million in Winter Park, and you have to pay $10,000 to $15,000 a year in taxes, you get rid of that $10,000 to $15,000. That house that was $1 million could go up to 1.2, 1.3 to make up for that, you know, that gap in that payment for the taxes. So, you know, it's definitely, I think for real estate investors, it theoretically, as I'm thinking it through, have the ability to help with the value of market, the home values in Florida. So, you know, it's something that it's a very controversial issue. And taxes, you know, people feel different ways about them, but, you know, as home, if you're going in the market to buy a home, Josh, would you buy a property with higher taxes and get better benefits, or would you rather just get rid of the taxes and pay a little bit more for the house?
I mean, that's a great question. I think I would preferably want to pay lower taxes, but ultimately it also depends on where the property is located. Is it located in an area that doesn't have a homeowners association, or does it reside in an area that does, right? So I think like there are a wide array of different factors, when it comes to that, because, I think the immediate choice would be like, hey, I don't want to pay the taxes, because that can add up to like a substantial amount. But it also depends on, whether or not it's in an area with a homeowners association.
So I think homeowner associations. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I hate HOAs.
I'm fighting with my HOA right now. Yeah. Right now, I'm waiting for an email back. I circled back. I said I'm following up on this. Respond to me.
So George, how do you feel about HOAs?
Yeah, how do you feel about HOAs, George? This is a good segue.
Yeah, I mean, they're a polarizing topic. Like you said, I mean, some people love them, some people not so thrilled about them. I think there's pros and cons. I mean, it is an additional cost to you, right, as the homeowner. Now, at the same time, they often have architectural review rules, right? And so you might find it super annoying if your neighbor decides to paint their house like a super bright certain color, or put something in their yard or whatever, or not cut their yard or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, I think, and that's a situation where the HOA can step up and kind of ensure that they take care of, that situation. So, I mean, there's pros and cons to them. Me personally, I probably, for me, would look for an area with no HOA, just because I want to have more freedom with what I can do with my land, with my property.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have to submit to an architecture review board if I decide to repaint my house, or add a new fixture on the front or something. And I also don't want to pay the additional costs. So, but that's a very personal decision for me. It makes sense to go with an HOA. For someone else, it really depends on you.
For certain people, we went from a townhouse that had an HOA, but now they were good. They were chill for a while, and they covered a lot of stuff. They cut the grass. They took care of a majority of the insurance for the exterior. But one of the big problems we ran into is, as that monster evolves and you get the different board members on there, they become crazy.
Mm-hmm.
They become crazy.
They go on a power trip.
They made a rule. You can't drink, you can't have drinks at the pool. What the fuck am I going to do at the pool in Florida then? Just sit in the pool? Shit.
Not even no glass bottles, just no
drinking? You couldn't drink or play music and shit at the pool.
Oh, wow.
And I was just that rule right there, it caused people to leave. One of my neighbors that lived, I have a really cool group of neighbors that we all lived in the little same little section of townhomes. Everyone was cool as shit. The moment the HOA started cracking down, literally two of them sold and left. And, we still touched base with one another, but it's one of those things where none of us have it. Now we don't live in an HOA because it's one of those things, like you said, it becomes where it's a personal preference. If you have a HOA that is infringing on your freedom, it could negatively impact the value of the property too.
I don't have a problem with HOAs. In general, I think they can be a good thing, but as far as my HOA is concerned, if I could leave a review somewhere that would make people not live in that community, I would actually do that, because I'm only renting right now. So I don't even pay for the HOA fees. I just keep getting letters from them. And last week, literally, I got home from work. I'm tired. Okay. This is a stressful job. I want to lay down. My husband comes running in. He's like, someone's towing our car. I'm like, why?
Oh,
what?
Why are they doing this? He had been home for 2 hours, and it was because it was parked. He had the car facing the other way, because we have 3 cars in our in our driveway, so we have to shift them around, and we had a guest coming over, so we needed space in the driveway. So he had parked it, but he had parked it facing traffic. But that's not a rule for residential areas. It can be a rule for the HOA, but it's not. And someone from the HOA was just
they were on a power trip
coming by, and they just called the towing company, and the guy, I had to pay the guy cash not to take the car. And then when I emailed the HOA, they were like, oh, this is not allowed and it's a safety hazard. And then I had to lawyer them and give them the Florida statutes and everything.
What is it in their bylaws or anything?
It's not in their bylaws. The only rules that they have is no overnight parking from 2 to 6 a.m., which it was not. And it's allowed to be parked there during the day. It can't be obstructing the sidewalk or any. You hearing this, HOA at Ruby Lake? I'm coming for you.
And guess what? Florida statute allows attorney's fees if you win.
Yeah.
I've beaten HOAs. They had to pay me like this one place had to pay me like fucking 20 grand because so in this case, the HOA president, he literally cited our client for some dumb shit that he was himself violating. And I got all that, dude, Google Maps and all that shit. Dude, I'll investigate the shit out of something on Google Maps, boy.
Yeah.
And we caught him. And dude, they dragged this case on. If you want to know how petty and stupid we will drag a meaningless case on. If you fucking fucked up and we're going to win, we will drag that shit on to the end. We fucking litigated this thing for 5 years. Yeah. It was one of my first cases. I litigated it for 5 fucking years.
And then as soon as I came on, he was like, okay, you're going to take this over and make sure they pay.
And yeah, they paid. Fuck them.
But yeah, they have to provide notice for those types of things. And they didn't. So that's
Did they reimburse you the cash that you paid
not
the
yet.
tow truck driver?
Like I said, I circled back with them yesterday. So after I brought up the Florida statutes and how they were unlawfully, doing these actions as an HOA and overextending their power, I haven't received a response.
Oh, you'll get one eventually.
Yeah, I know. I'll probably get one from their legal team.
Yeah, let's stay on top of that.
I will.
Well, last thing about real estate, George, the Fed has a meeting coming up where they're going to be potentially, quote unquote, cutting rates. So with the volatility of the market that you had touched upon earlier, do you think that this is going to have a more positive impact on home buyers or a negative impact on home buyers?
Well, I think if if interest rates go down, I think it's going to stimulate the market, which is what we've seen in the past. The degree to which they go down will probably correlate with the degree which the market is stimulated. So, if they go way down, what do you see? You see a lot of people buying homes, a lot of activity. Oh, yeah. What does that increased demand do? It can drive the prices of the homes up, right? So if you're a buyer and you're able to get into a home with a lower rate, yes, you can save money. However, you just want to make sure that you're not having to beat out multiple offers and potentially drive the price up. So I think it'll stimulate the market. But I'm thinking, I don't know. Do you guys know how? I don't think they're going to really go down like a whole lot.
I don't think that they'll go down a whole lot. I think maybe a quarter of a percentage point if I'm guesstimating correctly. But I always wonder, because you would know a lot more than I, when they do drop the interest rates, you are right that it will stimulate buying, of course, like for any sort of assets that are available. And specifically right now, we're talking about real estate. But do you think that with the market right now, one of the things that they talk about is a bubble being created around house prices because they've increased exponentially since the pandemic? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I've heard about this quite a bit. I know that there is that thought out there about there being kind of a bubble. I personally don't really feel that's the case, just because I think our real estate market in Central Florida is super robust.
Yeah.
We have a lot of demand. We have a lot of people who are continuing to want to move to Florida. So many people coming in and moving here to enjoy living in Florida, and they're buying houses. And so I really feel that all of our growth has been pretty well founded, and I think it's supported by our growth as a state. So I personally don't really feel that there's going to be like a bubble type situation. If anything, we have seen price increases slow down a little bit recently, but at the very same time, it's still remains strong. Yeah, like it's still continuing to increase and holding its value.
To touch on that, I think the market our society we're in today is different than it was in the 2007, 2008 era, where we did create a bubble in Florida because there's so many unchecked boxes for people to obtain loans and get tied to houses they really couldn't afford back then. Mm-hmm. The one thing I have seen that's been great is that the government's done a fairly good job at moderating how loans are given and mandating that certain checks are in place to where we have a little bit more stable of a lending practice, which is great. The other thing that I think really helps in our situation is the culture of work today. It's now more flexible where people can work from home and work, internationally. I know people that work, in companies that are in California, in New York, and Boston, and they're all working from home in Florida, and they're making a good living, paying less taxes, and they're comfortable. So I feel like to continue on with, George's statement, I think I think we have a inflated market price, but it's not like it's not just fluff. There's reasons why we have good fucking environment. We have good, nature. We have fairly good living standard here in Florida compared to somewhere like New York, which I fucking hate, where you got to pay like $700 just to go to work on a fucking train, We don't have to do that here. We have a really good standard of living. So I do think while the market is going up and it's getting, priced to where people are like in a panic mode, I think we're at a market level where we're similar to New York. We're similar to Boston. We're similar to California. Our prices are high, but I think we bring more value in that we have a good quality of living. So I don't think people are going to flee the market as quickly until they get hit by their first fucking hurricane. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a hurricane that hits Central Florida directly.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Have you dealt with like the impact of that at all? Like people like being scared to move down here because of hurricanes?
Well, it's definitely something that comes up. I mean, they can be devastating.
Yeah.
They can, impact your house.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have heard it being a concern among some buyers.
Because I feel like Floridians, we're just so nonchalant about them. Like, we're just like, oh, yeah, it's a hurricane party. But I feel like Northerners, when they're moving down here, because I feel like that's primarily like the type of people who want to move down here.
Northerners are weird as shit.
No, but they're so afraid of the hurricanes. Rightfully so.
They're afraid of everything.
There's a Netflix documentary about Hurricane Katrina right now. So I understand that. But I was wondering if it's more of a concern to actually keep them from moving into certain houses, or do they ask about like, whether the area or the property has proper drainage, or like where the electrical lines are, if they're under, if they're underneath versus on top and stuff like that.
Sometimes we'll look at, like overhanging tree limbs and stuff. And that's kind of a byproduct of getting ready for a hurricane. You want to make sure you don't have, limbs that could fall in the house. Another question that I get a lot is it in a flood zone? We look at that. We look to see if it is. And yes, I mean, if there's a body of water nearby, what's the drainage situation?
Yeah.
Has this pond or lake ever come close to the house? And we ask the seller to try to get a history of if it has. So absolutely. I mean, we do have some crazy weather in Florida. There's no secret.
Yeah.
And, if you're buying near water or you are buying in a flood zone, I mean, especially in those cases, you'll probably want to investigate a little bit to make sure that you can try to mitigate your risk, if there is a hurricane.
That's really important that you brought those things up, because those are things that like people don't think about, and only experienced people in the real estate market like yourself would know to look for, like I know people from up north that come down here and their main concern is whether or not they're going to run into an alligator or snake. You know what I'm saying? I have family members, which I like tell them they're idiots all the time. They want to pave their whole backyard with concrete to avoid snakes. Keep in mind,
we're only 3 feet above water or something.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, I know. I'm like, if a snake's going to come, it's going to come on the concrete too. I don't know. It doesn't really give a fuck.
Yeah.
But whatever. But yeah, well, let's get away from, real estate and law stuff. Let's get in some, something a little bit more simple with a little bit of time we have left. Let's talk about kind of what we're watching. So, before we started, we were talking about a little bit some of our interests. Tell us what's something you've been watching on Netflix or somewhere recently.
Well, I think the last thing I can remember watching was that documentary about the Carnival cruise ship.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. What
Train wreck.
Poo cruise.
So
cruise.
what was it
Cruise.
about?
Yeah.
Because I saw it, I just haven't watched it yet.
This was on the news like everywhere at the
Yeah.
time too. You don't remember that?
It's Carnival.
The Carnival cruise had a septic overflow, and
But that's because there was a fire. Correct me if
Right.
I'm wrong. There was a fire in the engineering room, and then it's like when the electrical on a cruise ship goes out, everything stops. So that means there's sewage as well. And they were at a point where they were trying to be rescued, but because they didn't have any direction anymore, they were like 100 nautical miles from where they were supposed to be rescued because the ship was just drifting. So instead of getting rescued in like Mexico, they ended up having to get rescued in Alabama.
So, but here's the thing with cruises. So I will never, because of the negative publicity of Carnival. Did you see the chicken? Like they got fucking a bunch of people got into a fight about chicken on Carnival.
What?
This was like literally 2 weeks ago. I thought it was made up because they have that whole fucking like they literally Carnival. They have made it seem like it's like a predominantly black cruise where
Well,
it's
I don't
only
want to
black
say
people that go on
anything
black
bad
cruises.
about Carnival because I went on a Carnival cruise with Josh's girlfriend, Shiana, and we had a great time.
yeah,
no.
I've been on quite a few cruises. 2 of them were Carnival, and I had a great experience.
Listen,
so Carnival,
I'll
I ain't
never.
hating on you.
I will
Send me tickets.
never go on a Carnival cruise based off the poop cruise and the chicken fight. I'm just not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm a Royal Caribbean guy. Been a Royal Caribbean guy for
Royal
the beginning.
Caribbean is nice.
Yeah, we
Have
don't
you been on any cruises?
I have as a kid. I went on a cruise.
Okay, what?
Carnival.
No, it was a Disney cruise.
Oh, but Disney's supposed to be real.
God
Disney
damn,
cruises are
Disney.
supposed to be really nice.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
It
You
was
you
super fun.
you
Yeah.
went on the Alpha. Of
Yeah, you went
cruises.
on you went on Premier Road.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all downhill from there.
Yeah, it's all downhill from Disney.
The food was amazing. that
Okay.
I'll say.
You should go on a Carnival cruise and do a review. That would be a funny. That would be a funny like you
Like
get
a
someone.
follow up to the documentary.
Someone
like,
that's
see
gone
if they
on-
made those changes and stuff.
Well, have you seen the YouTubes where like they'll have like they have like a YouTube channel where they'll get like 3 people to cook a meal, right? All the same style of meal. I saw one. It was like Cajun food or something.
Yeah.
And 3 different cooks, an amateur, a professional, and another person. They'll cook it 3 different ways. So each one will critique it, and you'll get like their overall experience. I think it would be funny if you get someone that's gone on a Disney cruise, a Carnival cruise, and a Royal Caribbean cruise to go on cruises together and then do the reviews and just watch how that plays
I
out. It'd
mean,
be
if
fun
the
to-
podcast
cool.
will pay for it, I'm willing to volunteer as
More
tribute.
people hire Jotunheim Media, and we will do that.
That would be a really really great vlog series.
Yeah. But ever since that happened, the tickets on Carnival cruises, and I'm pretty sure other cruise lines did this because of all of this, because of all of this bad publicity. Their tickets is their ticket when you purchase it is basically a contract saying that they're not accepting any liability for anything that happens on the cruise. They're not, they're not promising any certain quality or anything like that. So just for everyone to know, when you're buying a ticket for a cruise, you're basically signing a liability waiver.
Pretty much.
And you're subject to maritime law.
Yeah, and interesting fact about cruise in particular, sometimes it depends on where they, the flag of the ship is.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's sometimes the law that follows that cruise, right? So you could be, most people will dock their ship in the Bahamas because they get certain corporate advantages for that, whether it be taxes or something like that. Remember the Titan, the Ocean Gate thing?
Oh yeah.
So that his company was it wasn't here in the US, but I know they sued him in the US. So there was it's crazy. Maritime law is its own fucking it's a whole thing. So we don't even have time to discuss that today, but
I would hate to have health issues on a cruise.
You don't remember when during COVID people were on a cruise and they had to keep them on the boat?
Yeah.
You remember that happened?
yeah, they got quarantined in their cabin and shit. Like,
That was
but they used to get like free room service and stuff. I would do that. I would get sick for that.
Yeah.
No. You know how small the rooms are? And if you have to like, if you're like in a party mode and all of a sudden everyone's quarantined on the ship and you can't leave the room.
If they're going to quarantine me in their penthouse suite, I'm in.
I'm down, dude.
I'm in.
Okay.
Ah,
No,
well.
I wouldn't do it. Would you do it?
No, I wouldn't want to. I definitely would not want to.
It's kind of like being in the villages.
Like, are you talking about like the elderly people?
Yeah,
villages?
it's just a bunch of people surrounded with STDs and shit. That's what the villages are. You
I
didn't
mean,
know about
yeah,
that?
they have like little
You
pineapples.
should know about the villages, brother.
Do you know about the villages?
I'm familiar with the village.
You sell a lot of houses in the villages?
Not me personally. But there are a lot of agents that do really specialize in that.
Well, the villages, I've
George is
heard-
like, it's not my forte.
It's on my wheelhouse, but I know.
Yeah.
the
He's in the
villages.
know.
There's a whole thing about the villages with like the little loofahs or the
Yeah,
little
yeah.
certain colors mean certain things.
Like you're swingers or
Yeah.
like blah, blah, blah.
George is
whatever.
too young for that, and he probably doesn't know.
Are you calling us old?
To be honest with you, I
I don't know shit about it.
I didn't even know about any of this.
My
I didn't know that
students
there
think
was.
I'm 25, and you can't tell me otherwise.
I didn't even know that this was going on in the villages.
Listen, I built a shed in my backyard without having to get HOA approval because I don't have an HOA over the weekend, and that's what I like to do as an adult now.
Oh my God, adulting.
That shed does look pretty badass.
It was plastic. All right. Well, I mean, great episode, George. I appreciate you coming on and spending some
having
time
me.
with us, man. Looking
pleasure.
forward to see you develop in the real estate field, and I'm hoping we can work together on more projects, man.
That would be great. Thank you guys so much for having me for the opportunity.
Yeah, George, thanks for coming on. To everybody who's been tuning in to the Only Lawsuits podcast, thank you so much. I have a little thing in my throat, but
It's okay. Don't
Yeah.
be sad. We'll do another one next
You
week.
need to fucking go quarantine in your room.
I know I
dude.
need to go quarantine. Yeah, but no, to everybody who's been tuning in, thank you so much. George, thank you so much for your time. And if you guys have any comments or suggestions, leave them in the box below. And until next time,
Peace.
Bye.
peace.